Good afternoon, bookworms and flyleafs. Welcome to this Friday's episode of Author Reads here on Fae Productions. I'm your host, Fairy Princess Lolly, and today I am here with author Jessica Crichton. I never
Right.
can say Crichton. I got it right. Okay.
You got it right.
Before, yes. So before we get started, of course, though, our obligatory things to get out of the way, which are first, please like, subscribe, and we'll zap the share button today because I think we're dealing with robots and other strange, strange monster and steampunky things maybe. So zap the button and please get all of your friends here to watch with us. That always makes the show a little bit more fun since this is a live stream. And then, of course, also I want to give a shout out to today's show sponsor, which is, Platyfly Studio. Go in there in the ticker. And of course, the information is in the low bar as well. But Platyfly Studios has been on here before as a vendor for handmade home shopping. They sell fantasy-inspired clothing and accessories, all handcrafted by Kat Hawthorne, who is in Indianapolis, Indiana. You can check out her 2021 collections on her Etsy store, which feature an assortment of gorgeous breezy skirts, many of which have pockets. Boop, boop, boop. She also carries a variety of accessories, including mermaid gloves, dragon scale dice bags, and jewelry. Everything is designed with the discerning pixie in mind and with waistband sizing that ranges from 35 to 70 inches. Follow her on Facebook and or Instagram for information on future sales and more. Good to get in on that too because we have Black Friday and then of course the entire Christmas season coming up. Remember to shop with handmade vendors early, you guys, because well, handmade takes time. So that is a thing. Check them out. Information's in the low bar wherever you are watching from. And with that said, then we are ready to jump into the show. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, everybody.
Please, if you will, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us who you are and what you do, where you're from. Give a shout out if you want to.
So my Earth name is Jessica Crichton. My Nil name is Scribbler, and I am officially from Spokane, Washington, USA. So I'm completely just boring inland Northwest American person, but but and I guess I have 5 kids,
And they are some of your biggest supporters right now. Here we go. See, that's my
are,
mom.
oh,
And and
I know
mom, I
Conrad.
gotta do it. They are out there supporting you. Yay!
You guys are awesome.
Well, and I actually think it's pretty cool that your kids are out there because these stories, now we've known each other for like kind of peripherally at least, from convention scenes and whatnot for years and years in the Pacific Northwest. But and I have an earlier version, I think, of Guts and Glory, which is based on your kids, or the characters are based on your kids, if I recall originally.
The book you have, you
Yes,
actually are the only one who has that book.
I am.
The big thick one.
Yeah.
Me ages ago. It was the only copy I had, and
Movie worth money.
but like nobody knows it exists. But yeah, that one is actually absolutely 100% based on my kids. Yeah. But the Guts and Glory books, there's characters based on my kids. 99% of those characters are in book 3. However, my second Emily, she helped me with the character of Spirit, which is Emily Tate, who is Guts and Glory's older sister. And so Spirit's her character.
So I know now, I kind of want to just make because I want to continue on this topic, but I also want to make a little segue real quick, is that I know that right prior, maybe a couple weeks prior to being here today, you were working on a new trailer, which you had on your YouTube channel. Am I recalling that correctly? Because I remember I went and took yes, the book trailer.
Yeah, the book trailer.
Yes.
It's
is it up and ready to go? And can we share it with the audience?
It is absolutely up and ready to go, and you can share it. Let me see. I got to find it.
What is the name of your YouTube channel? What can I use as a search term to find it?
It's called Mom Plays because I was doing video game stuff with it for a while.
Mom Plays. We're going to try to find this. I have a Zombie Nation is the first thing that comes up. It says, nope, that's not the channel title, though.
No.
Let's see. Well, sometimes YouTube does not, let's see. Nope.
One second.
Not finding it.
Been a new tab, though, not the...
Yeah, no, I figured that we should share that with everybody and let them go over there and give you the likes and subscribes and, you know, watch the, because you did a really fantastic job on this. And I almost want to touch on it a little bit because you made your own trailer, right?
Yeah, I did.
And I was just so impressed by that. Let's see.
It was unlisted because the books aren't out yet. They will be available. The new versions anyway will be available, and book 3, which is not available yet at all. But the new versions, they'll all be available on the 29th. They're not available yet, so I didn't have the trailer up as public, but I can publicize it. It's not a problem. Now I can get to it, and do you want me to send
if you just shoot me the link in Facebook, I will copy it over to the chat here on YouTube and Twitch and everything, so people can go look at it if you just grab the share link.
What I got
but
here.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is so impressive about this is that book trailers are really kind of a thing that I see a lot with indie authors and whatnot doing this, but it is quite a different skill set from writing to do video editing.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
And so I'm curious, as an author, how do you, being the primary thing, how did this particular challenge really kind of hit you and affect you? One of the things I guess I experience when I talk to people a lot is that if they do this kind of creative work, whether it be creating something, say for their, handmade store, or whether it be writing something or whatever, the other half of that involves all of the posting to places and, managing the back end business stuff is quite a conflict of different brain sides, right, that go together. And so how did you bridge that gap?
Just because I had to finish that 3rd book. I did the 1st book. I published it in 2012. So it's been a while, and I just really needed to get this series done, and I needed to motivate myself to do that. And in order to do that, I had to really get it out there and give myself a deadline that I could not kind of poo-poo, that I had to follow. And in order to do that, I had to make myself accountable by telling other people. And so the first thing I was thinking was I need to do a book trailer, but they're kids' books. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not an artist. I don't draw pictures very well. I don't paint. I can't do that kind of thing. So I was like, how am I going to do a book trailer for kids when the only pictures I have are just really kind of the illustrations that my daughter has done illustrations. And in an entire book trailer, I just didn't have enough illustrations for that. So I ended up getting Real Illusion Character Creator and iClone, which they're programs to do 3D animation. And it was a lot of fun, but it took me 9 months to do that video.
But you started from zero. You had like no video. So
I have a bachelor's degree in film, so I need to be able to.
Not the same though as.
But it's and I graduated with my bachelor's a long time, 2009. So.
So now, what is the learning curve like? Because. Again, like this is one of those things that, authors will tell you, oh, have a book trailer done and, pay somebody to do your editing and all these kinds of things. But a lot of times those aren't options for people when they're not, and so how, what, what was the learning curve like on these programs that you used? Was it very steep? Was it moderate? And what would you suggest to somebody who may be in a similar position where they can't pay somebody yet to make them a trailer, and they might have to just learn those skills on their own and do it themselves? What would you suggest?
I would say start with Character Creator. If you want to do 3D animation, digital animation, which is what I did, because that will help. That's kind of the start of the learning curve, and it's called Reallusion Character Creator, and it's literally what it sounds like. You're making the characters, you're making the people, and that I just kind of went, okay, well, this doesn't work and that doesn't work, and kind of played with it a lot. And that helped me figure out kind of how all of the digital imaging worked. There's these image maps that you do, and some of them are extremely convoluted, and you're like, how does this turn into that? And then others are just like shirts, then you can like put things on and put the shirts on them. And there's different characters that have some pretty unique parts to them. So that was a challenge coming up with that. But they have a marketplace that you can go to. At first, I spent a little money there getting the stuff made, but then with the stuff they'd made, I taught myself, okay, how did they do this? And kind of went from there. And then iClone is the animator software, and it's a lot heavier and a lot more complicated in a lot of ways. The hardest part is if you have like two things and they're standing right here, and then, well, they're together, right? I got a hat on top of the character. It's great, but no.
Yes. Yes, that actually makes sense. So,
and I'm not
because they're layered in this direction, but not in this direction. Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense to me anyway. I don't know if that makes sense to people that aren't familiar with graphic design, but because I'm sorry.
I don't know math very well, so the whole grid thing, just plug in the numbers. The numbers do not translate to reality for me. So I had to look at it and just play with it, and it took a bit of work, but I mean, it's doable if you put in all the time, and I definitely put in a lot of time.
That's how I feel with time, actually. Like, it just doesn't really map to reality for me.
I do have a full-time, so my biggest frustration, if you ask my fiance, that is complaining that I have to go to work because it's taking away my time to do what I want to do with my books.
Well, so speaking of your books, then tell us a little bit. Now, there's 3 of them, right? And so tell us a little bit about each of these, if you will, expound upon them.
Well, the first book is Dr. Fix-It's Malicious Machine, and it's this is the older version. I don't have the newer version with me right now, but this is the one that you can get on Amazon right now if you want to. The first two books will not be available on these versions after the 29th because I'm going to be updating everything. The versions of the coverage
were like edition, like the first edition of the book. So you guys, when Jessica is famous, here in the near future, and a completely well-known middle grade sci-fi fantasy author, you will have the first edition, and those will be worth money.
That'd be cool.
Put that intent out there.
Yes. Well, Dr. Fix's Malicious Machine, the gist is that Guts and Glory, their names are Trevor and Tabitha on Earth. There's a name thing with Nell. That's a whole big thing. Anyway, they are 11 years old, and Guts is the one that has his point of view in the first book. So you're looking at from Guts's point of view, from Trevor's point of view. And he gets sent home with a suspension notice again. And thinks he's in big trouble, and finds out that no, mom has been kidnapped by a giant metal tentacle through the bathtub in her lab. So there's a portal in the bathtub, and Long story short, they go after her with their big sister Emily, and they end up in Nil, which is a city in Eno. Eno's the continent, but Nil's the city, and Nil is where the kids live, and it's post-apocalyptic. I mean, it's just garbage everywhere. All of pretty much what you'd think of for post-apocalypse, except that take away the zombies and all of the more beyond G-rated stuff,
Right.
and add some super kids that come up with crazy inventions that help them fight giant bugs and machines and the teens, because they're at war with the teens.
Wait,
so there's that.
Like into the teenagers?
Teenagers, yes. Yep. So the teenagers, when they turn 13, they get a tattoo on their face, and it just happens. They don't get it. It just happens. And that's how they know the difference between a kid and a teen. And the teens are also there's 4 kinds of tattoos. They're specific, and they denote rank in the teens. And then they also.
I would feel about that. Like, what? You don't want to turn into a teenager. You're gonna get a tattoo on your face. What if you don't?
Yeah, you're also kind of brainwashed when you do it too. As soon as you get the tattoo, you're pretty much a thrall to Dr. Fix-It, who's the bad guy. And he's the one that sends the teens to beat up the kids, pretty much, which is why they're at war with them. So yeah, Guts and Glory have to go in there and stop the war, pretty much. Say, hey, these are your big sisters, and they're your little brothers and sisters. What are you doing? And of course, rescue Mom. That's kind of the whole reason they go there. And they find out a bunch of stuff, some of which is kind of spoilers, and about Mom specifically and her history. And then at the end, the teens are all kind of in a coma. They're all kind of asleep. And so now the next thing they have to do is figure out how to wake the teens up. Because
a bunch of teens who are standing around like,
well,
not that different than real teenagers, actually.
Oh, well, the thing that controlled them got broken, and that's the only thing I'm going to say about that. And so now they're like, oh crap, it's good that it's broken, but now the teens
but also army of unresponsive bodies. What do we do?
So they find out that there's a somebody that Dr. Fix-It worked with in the past that might be able to help them with that. And so they go to Knock, which is the second book, the Counterfeit Zombies of Knock, book 2.
Like Knock or
NOC.
Like NOC. Okay. We have Nil and we have Knock.
Nil and Knock. And Nil is, of course, Nil means nothing.
Yes.
Which is, because it's post-apocalyptic, Nil is, it's worthless, pretty much. Right. Knock is short for nocturnal, because the counterfeit zombies there are actually the grandparents. They're the older adults that are there. And that's why
it's a counterfeit zombie.
Yeah. They're like not real.
Okay, I understand words correctly.
Yes. No, I'm using them the way they're supposed to be used. Yes. Each of the titles has a big word in it. I just chose to do that, because I could. I guess that's really.
I mean, wordcraft is your craft, so.
Yeah, but yeah, book 2 is from Glory's point of view, and it's her whole thing of trying to figure out how to earn her name, because you're either a stick or you have a name. The sticks are the little kids who haven't had a chance to earn their names yet, so they're the little toddler kids, little kindergartners. They're the sticks. And the bigger kids have earned their names, so they are officially kids, and they're very proud of that. And all the sticks want to earn their names. And but Mom gave Guts and Glory their names. They didn't get to choose them like most of the Nil kids do. And so Glory's like, what does Glory even mean? How do I earn this stupid name? Pretty much her whole deal throughout the whole thing. And there's a lot about emotional abuse in it, and stuff that's that is kids, but especially girls, but kids in general go through a lot that isn't often touched on when it comes to bullying, the first book is about bullying, but it's the physical kind. You know, there's some fighting and hitting. The second book is also about bullying, but it's the emotional kind. And so she goes through that and ends up earning her name, but I'm not going to say
not going to reveal, no reveal.
what glory means in the books anyway. And then they're like, okay, well, we've saved the teens, we woke them up, we've done this and that, and now where are our parents? Where's everybody's parents? You know, where's mom and dad? And they know mom. All the kids know mom, but the nil kids have never known parents. They don't know what parents are. I mean, that's why they think that the seniors are zombies, because the oldest people they've ever seen before that are teenagers. You know, so they don't know even exist until Guts and Glory tell them that they do. So now they're like, okay, we need to go save our parents, and that's what book 3 is, and that's the diminutive defenders of Num. And
Nom?
Num, N-U-M.
N-U-M, okay.
Which is an amalgamation of numb, as in I feel numb.
Yes.
The dystopian city, and that's where the parents live. They work a lot. They're always working, constantly working. It's a since it's dystopian, it's kind of everything you'd think of, like 1984, Brave New World.
I mean, that sounds absolutely dystopian.
Yeah, blown up dystopian because it's for kids, so it's just the parents don't sleep. You know, it's stuff like that. It's very kind of really extreme fantasy dystopia, and that one it's different points of view. I have 7 different characters that are talking in the third book, that you actually get to see their points of view. So, and that's the one that's going to be coming out. I'm finally going to clean it up.
Clean it up and out it goes. Well, so today we're going to be hearing from the very first book. And with that said, are you ready to get into the reading?
I'm not very good at reading out loud, but I will do so.
It is okay to make mistakes.
Exactly. It is okay. I do have, where is it? There it goes. I do have the, like I said, I have the original the original Dr. Fix-It here, but I'm going to read from my my revised version. So this will be the first time that the new, and it's not hugely different, but there are definitely some differences. So this will be the first new revised Dr. Fix-It on the first book will have been read by anyone but me and my fiance. So
nice. So we're getting the preview. Okay, so for everybody watching at home, here's how the next part works. Jessica is I'm going to give her the whole screen. Excuse me. She will then go ahead and do her reading. While she's doing her reading, I will be in the background on mute and in the chat with you and taking questions that we will then post to her when she is done doing the reading. So if you guys have questions, feel free to just ask them in the chat as she's going along, and then when she's done, we'll get those up. After that, we will do a drawing for a free copy of the book, and then also Jessica will be giving us a little patron bonus as well this afternoon of a deleted scene. So if you are on our Patreon at any level of a subscriber, you will get access to the patron bonus today. So, and all of the patron bonuses of the past, because that's how Patreon works. So with that said, then I will give you the screen and put myself on mute.
Okay. All right. Chapter 1, An Insidious Mom Napping. And let me know if I'm mumbling or you can't understand what I'm saying, or I go too fast. Thank you. The vice principal had candy on her desk. I always stared at the candy. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I knew I'd never get any. Mom says some things are like watching a train wreck because they're so horrible we can't look away. That candy was like a train wreck. It was always lollipops. It's like Vice Principal Jackson knew those were my favorite and put them there just to torture me. I wouldn't put it past her. What am I going to do with you, Trevor Tate? She said. She always sounded choky and stuffed up, like she wanted to sneeze out marshmallows. I glanced at her, then back at the candy, and shrugged. I don't know. What do you usually do with me? Look at me, Mr. Tate. I did. Her puckery face wasn't Her puckery face wasn't as train wrecky as the candy, but it was close. What? Your mother says you are a wonderful child, and I am sure she is right. But for the life of me, I can't understand why you feel the need to try my patience every week. I shrugged. It's a game I play. What can I say? Her brown eyes narrowed. Somehow I doubt Arthur Camps enjoys your game very much. Arthur Camps is a jerk, I said, without thinking. I say a lot of stuff without thinking. Sometimes it gets me into trouble, but this time I was already in trouble, so it didn't really matter much. Jackson sat back and crossed her arms over her chest. I don't expect all of my students to get along, Trevor. You may dislike Arthur all you want, but I have told you numerous times that we do not allow bullying at Lewis Elementary. I'm not a bully, I said, trying to not to get mad. It was hard. I hate being called a bully more than almost anything. You punched poor Arthur in the mouth, Jackson said. That is what we call bullying. For once, I held back the reply that first came to my head. That's because it would have been something like, he started it, and stuff like that never worked with the vice principal, even if it was true. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? She asked. I tried to think of something to say that would make her understand, but I realized it was pointless. So, what if I'd heard Arthur picking on Amanda Byers at recess? So what if her crying had made me so mad I felt hot all over? So what if, when he laughed at her, my anger became impossible to control? So what if the only thing I could think of to make him stop was to punch his stupid jerk face? I wasn't the bully, Arthur was. But if I said that, Jackson would ask me why I didn't tell the recess teacher and let her handle it. Again. And I wouldn't be able to convince her that my brain stopped working when I got mad. Again. So I just shrugged. Jackson nodded like I'd said something brilliant, then opened her desk drawer. So, no excuses this time? Good. I'll call that progress. She took out a pink wad of paper and started writing on it. I still think a week-long suspension will serve to teach you the lesson that my talks have obviously failed at. I took the paper from her hand without a word. It was probably pointless to remind her that this was my third suspension anyway. Mom's gonna murder you. You know that, right? Tabitha said as we walked home together through the late autumn leaves. I sighed without looking at her. I know. Get off my case, okay? Sure, she said. Sorry. Unlike most people, my twin sister knows when to leave me alone. It's like she can feel my temper getting worse as easily as I can. She's great at calming me down, too. Nobody else can do that. And Tab never gets mad. She's never even been in a fight. Of course, she's never had to. Nobody at school would dare hurt my sister. Mom says Tab's my glory and I'm her guts. I think that means we're like a yin-yang, that black and white symbol they use in the old kung fu movies. On the outside, we're almost exactly alike, with our kind of curlyish brown hair, blue eyes, and tons of freckles. But on the inside, we're as different as pencils and oatmeal. If I'm a devil, Tab's an angel. Of course, she's not perfect either. For one, she's a know-it-all. I'd be happy if she never again told me how creep-tastic spiders are good for the environment, or that lightsabers are a scientific impossibility. I don't care. I still want one. I played with the suspension notice in my pocket as we walked into the kitchen. While Tab went to the fridge to grab her after-school snack, I looked at the attic door with growing dread. Most of the time, we weren't supposed to disturb Mom until she came downstairs to make dinner. But I wanted to tell her the bad news before she got a call from the school. Sure, I was already toast, but if the school got to her before I had a chance to even try and explain, I would be burnt toast. Staring at it won't make it open, Tab said from behind me. I groaned. Mom is going to kill me, or maybe just turn me into a toad or something. Tab laughed. Don't be dumb. Mom's a scientist, not a witch. Scientists don't turn people into toads. I glanced at her. They could. You never know. She just gave me a look and bit into her cookie. It'll be like ripping off a Band-Aid, I told myself as I reached out to open the door. I got to the first step and craned my neck, but couldn't see past the sharp turn a few stairs up. Do it fast, like ripping off a Band-Aid. I took a deep breath and dashed up the stairs, taking them two at a time. Hey, Mom, I said as I rounded the corner at the top. I know you said not to bug you when... I stopped dead at the top of the stairs in shock. Mom's usually spotless lab was a huge mess. The thick wooden workbench was covered in ripped up strips of paper, shredded books, cracked pens, and twisted pieces of the metal beaker stand that normally stood there. All over the floor, broken beakers spilled out mysterious, colorful fluids, wetting more busted science equipment and making the place smell like a rabid raccoon had farted, thrown up, and died there. Worst of all, Mom's prized microscope, the one she had worked years to afford, lay smashed and broken in a blue-green puddle of some kind of smoking liquid. I saw all of that pretty fast because my eyes were drawn almost right away to the back corner of the lab. There, an impossible wall of light flickered and rippled like water over yellow flashlight beams. That was weird enough, but even crazier was the nightmare thing coming out of it. A huge coppery tentacle covered in sharp suction cup-looking barbs like broken bottles. It slithered around the floor, scraping slowly over the mess like it was searching for something. I hoped it wasn't me. There was a soft movement to my right. I glanced over to see a shadow kneeling next to the watery doorway. The light behind made it look too dark to see very well, but I could recognize that ponytail anywhere, with glasses perched on top like a double set of eyes, and a scarf, always a different color, wrapped around her forehead to keep her brown bangs out of her face while she worked. "Mom," I whispered, taking a step towards her. Her shadowed hand went up. "Get back, he's found us." At the sound of her voice, the tentacle whipped back, sweeping under my feet and knocking me to the floor. I didn't even have a chance to pull myself up before it wrapped itself around Mom's waist and yanked her back. Her scream was cut off as the thing pulled her through the door of light, and then she was gone. I don't remember when or how, but I managed to pull myself up again. Then I just stood there like my feet were frozen to the floor, staring at the oval of light, my mind completely blank from shock. I was still there when Tab ran up the stairs behind me, followed by our 14-year-old sister, Emily. "I heard a scream," Emily said. "What happened?" Tab asked at the same time. Their voices sounded foggy, like they were coming through piles of blankets. I managed to shake my head, but I still couldn't talk. Excuse me. As Emily pushed her way past me, the yellow glow in the back corner started to dim. Then, with a low hum, the doorway began to fall slowly backwards as the watery stuff drained out, disappearing through a pipe at the bottom of the bathtub. I closed my eyes and tried to shake the crazy out of my head. I hadn't seen that, no way. And sure enough, when I looked again, the old tub Mom used in her lab was empty, resting on its 4 claw feet as if it had been there, just like that, for years. There was no sign of the impossible glowy bathwater that it had held only moments before, or the wicked metal tentacle, or Mom. As my mind raced with different crazy person diagnoses I might give myself, I heard Mom's ringtone. I blinked around at the ruined tub until my eyes landed on a flashing white light in the shadows under the tub. I rushed over, skirting the spilled liquids and broken glass, and knelt down to reach for her phone. I had just curled my fingers around it when I felt a massive sting at the top of my hand. "Ow!" I jumped back, landing on my butt in the green goo. At the same time, a tiny robotic voice spoke from the shadows under the tub. "DNA confirmed." "DNA what?" I whispered, staring stupidly at my hand where a small drop of blood had formed. "Oh, man, what did you do this time, Trevor?" Emily said. "Forget being turned into a frog," Tab said. "Mom's going to skin you alive for this." That's when my brain ice finally broke into a million pieces. But I didn't do this," I said. "Mom just got mom-napped by some crazy, scary metal octopus thing that came out of the bathtub, but the tub wasn't like this. It was full of weird, glowy water stuff standing on its end. And what are you talking about?" Emily said. "I don't know," I said honestly. But Mom, Suddenly I remembered the robotic voice. "Wait!" I turned to the tub. "Hello? Are you there?" "I did see the glowing," Tab said, as my sisters joined me by the tub. "You did too, Em." "Maybe," Emily said. I don't know what I saw, but..." "Hello, Trevor Tate," the robotic voice said from under the tub. "I have a message for you." Emily squeaked out a surprised scream and ran back to the stairs. Tab knelt beside me. "What was that?" "I don't know." I showed her my hand, but whatever it was, it stung me good. As Tab leaned in to look closer, a huge, nasty bug with a billion legs scurried out from the shadows under the tub and straight at us. Tab screamed and fell backwards onto her butt next to me, while I kicked crazily at the thing. Too fast for me, it scurried right between my legs and jumped onto Tab's hand. She screamed again and swatted it off into the corner, but not before it dug a scorpion-like tail into her skin, too. "Ow!" She slapped the back of her hand against her mouth and stared in horror at the now upside-down centipede scorpion thing. "DNA confirmed," the robotic voice said, as the bug righted itself. "Hello, Tabitha Tate. I have a message for you." "I thought the message was for me," I said. Tab dropped her hand, though her eyes didn't leave the bug for a second. "Maybe it's for both of us." The bug didn't bother to answer. Instead, it curled up so that its head met its butt, and only a few of its many legs stayed on the floor, like a big fringed bug ring. Then it started glowing with a pukey yellow light, and a beam shot out of its center, standing against the far wall like an old-time projector. The staticky film it played showed a man whose face was mostly hidden by a metallic half-mask that covered his nose and mouth, his dark goggles over his eyes. His hair was short and light-colored, and he wore a big shiny hoop earring in one ear. "Hello, Guts and Glory," he said in a tinny old-timey voice. "I'm Dr. Fixit, and I have come to help you fill your destiny." Chapter 2. Nell. You two are very special to me, he continued. That is why I have spent such a long time searching for you. You have? I said. Before you can become my champions of honor and justice, you must be put into a series of tests to prove yourselves worthy. Champions, I thought, getting really excited. Honor and justice? Yes, please. What tests? I said out loud. I'm ready. Tab smacked my arm. Stop interrupting. I don't think he can hear you anyway, Emily said, joining us again from the stairs. It looks like a movie. This is my command to you both, Dr. Fixit said. Follow your mother to Nil. From there, I will guide you until you have found her. You children like games, correct? Well, call this a treasure hunt, with your mother as the treasure, or hide and seek. It will be fun. But games have rules, and my game is no different. You must not break the rules, or very bad things will happen. Here are the rules. Do not talk to the wrong side, and do not stray from the path. The projector snapped off with a click, and the bug, well, died, I think. It curled up like it was dead anyway. I wasn't about to check. Okay, so that was weird, Emily said. I think Mom would call that an understatement, Tab said. She looked down at the bug. It's not moving anymore. It's probably all used up now, Emily said. I think it's some kind of machine. No real bug could do that. She turned to me. Trev, you said you saw why they took Mom? I nodded, but my eyes were still glued to the wall where the movie had been. My mind kept playing Dr. Fixit's words over and over. Champions of honor and justice. Trevor, Emily snapped. Where did he take Mom? I blinked and looked at her. I pointed at the tub. Through there? Emily glanced at it with a snort. What, did he make her teeny weeny and run her down the drain? You saw the light, Tab reminded her. I think it was coming from there, actually. I walked over to the tub and knelt down to look underneath. There's got to be a way to make it do that again. Then we can go, where did Dr. Fixit say he took Mom? Nil, Tab said. She picked up one of Mom's papers from the floor and made a face as she studied it. For some reason, I don't like that word. It means nothing, Emily said. Well, most names don't really mean anything, I said, right? No, Emily said. I mean, like the word nil. It means nothing. Weird name for a place, Tab said. She shuddered and dropped the knob note in an orange puddle. Now I really don't like it. Anything on that paper about how this thing works? I asked her. She shook her head. Just a bunch of scribbles about bone structure. Maybe there's a switch or something over there. I started to push myself through the pipes between the tub and the wall. I think I can fit. Shouldn't we be calling the cops? Emily said. I mean, this seems a little dangerous. Just then my elbow knocked loose a pipe and the tub suddenly shuddered. I jumped back as it started to raise up again, tipping on its end like a really deep full-length mirror. Then the bathtub started to fill with water backwards from the drainage pipe instead of the faucet. A tiny waterfall ran down along the upraised base towards the rim, where it stopped. It was like an invisible force field held the water back. Not even a drop spilled onto the floor. As it got deeper, the water began to glow yellow. Okay, Emily said as she watched the tub fill. Now what? I reached my hand towards the water and dipped my fingers in. It was warm, just like a bath. Only normal baths don't glow. It wasn't clear like normal either. Under the glow, I could make out swirly darkness, like deep ocean waves. Curious, I moved my hand further in. It went up to my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder. Still, my fingers touched nothing. Now, I guess we go through, I said. We looked at each other, and I was sure my sisters were thinking a lot of the same things as me. What if it really is water and we drown? What if it leads to an underground somewhere without any light? What if it leads to outer space? But it didn't matter in the end where the portal went. Mom was there somewhere, and we had to get her back, no matter what. You'd better follow me or I'll be really mad, I said. Then, trying not to think too hard about it, I held my breath and stepped into the tub. I was blind. That was bad, but I could breathe, so I wasn't underwater. That was good. But I was also falling fast. That was bad. Then I realized there was something under me, something slippery. It wasn't falling after all. I was sliding. Down, down, down in pitch blackness I slid. At first it was terrifying, but it lasted so long that by the time I saw an orangey yellow light glowing below me, I'd actually started getting kind of bored. The light got brighter and brighter, and then I was out, landing on a pile of dusty old rags. At least they were soft. I was still sneezing and rubbing my eyes when Emily landed on top of me, her knees jabbing me in the back like double harpoons. Ow, get off! I wiggled out from under her just as Tab fell on top of us both, throwing up even more dust. I had to practically rub my pupils off and sneeze out the Sahara before I could finally stand up on the rag pile and look around. So, this was Nil. We were inside a building that seemed to go on forever. Its walls and ceiling arched overhead like half an enormous toilet paper roll. Huge brown-edged holes spotted the metal surface all over. Through them I could see a stormy orange sky outside, heavy with low, bruise-colored clouds. Well, that's different, Tab said. I'd say more like cruddy, I said. The place looks like it was burned away with acid rain. Wait, Emily said. Why aren't we underwater? I looked at Tab. She looked at me. We shrugged. I don't think that was actually water in the bathtub, Tad said. I mean, when was the last time you took a bath and ended up in another world? But Trevor said some tentacle thing took Mom, Emily said. Things with tentacles live in the ocean, right? It was made of metal and glass, I said. I don't think it was actually alive. Emily groaned. This is all way too weird. I don't know about that, Tab said, pointing behind us. I mean, that's pretty cool. I turned around to look. Holy wow, you can say that again. Like an enormous copper boa constrictor, the biggest spiral slide I ever saw rose to the ceiling far above our heads. It was made of rusty pipes, twisted and knotted so badly that I couldn't even see where it started. But the end was easy enough to spot. It was right over our heads and looked like a huge outdoor faucet. Well, I said when my voice came back, that explains the sliding. Tab nodded dumbly. Mom must have made it, Emily said. I guess her portal came out a little higher up than she expected. Who says Mom made the portal? I asked. Emily gave me her don't be dumb look. It was in her lab, genius. Who else would have? Tab squinted one eye, and puckered up her mouth, making what she calls her Holmes face, as in Sherlock. She says doing that makes her think. I just think it makes her look doofy. I wonder how the big tentacle monster you described got through the slide without hurting it, she said after a moment. I shrugged. Maybe that's all it is, a huge long tentacle. That would fit. That doesn't make any sense, Emily said. Does any of this make sense? I said. Emily opened her mouth to answer, but she was interrupted by a weird tittering noise. We froze. Tab whispered. That sounds kind of buggy. I scanned the rusty shadows. Yeah, I whispered, but it's way too loud. Any bug that made noise like that would have to be... Ah! Tab screamed, pointing a trembling hand at one of the low holes in the wall. Massive antenna felt around the edge, followed by a giant black bug head with sharp, wicked-looking mandibles. Its shiny black eyes flashed as it stared straight at us. Enormous, I finished with a croak. Chapter 3, Attack of the 50-Foot Cooties. Is that a cockroach? I asked, looking at Tab. She just shook her head. All the color had drained out of her face. I don't care what it is. Emily grabbed our hands and yanked us off the rag pile. Just run! I looked around in a panic. To where? There's nowhere to hide. Tab pointed at the small opening under the bulk of the slide. There! We dove between the copper coils just as the cockroach reached us. It reared up, screeching and howling. Emily and Tab pressed against the underside of a spiral, as far back from the opening as they could get. I watched the giant bug through the coils, not sure if I was more terrified or fascinated by it. How do cockroaches eat? Tab asked. It's not going to eat us, Emily said. But how? It's not going to eat us, Emily repeated. Pretty sure none of us was completely sure of that. With another deafening screech, the cockroach climbed up the slide and came right back down. It searched around, looking a lot like a dog sniffing the air, its antenna wiggling wildly. Then it looked straight at me. I felt my stomach go cold, like I'd eaten ice cream that wouldn't digest. It's coming over here, I croaked. A bumpy black antenna wormed its way into our hiding place. I jumped as it touched my chest, and its spiked hair scraped along my shirt like razor-sharp barbs. I bit my lip, willing myself not to scream, and glanced at Emily. She mouthed silently, "Don't move." I shut my eyes tight and bit my lip so hard it bled. It seemed like an eternity before the spiky antenna finally pulled back, and the cockroach roared another high-pitched screech. We all ducked up together as it climbed on top of the slide, bashing its face down between the coils above our heads. Its sharp mandibles tore into the soft metal slide over and over again like a jackhammer. It knows we're here, Emily screamed. How does it know that? Maybe it can smell us, I squeaked. I cleared my throat. Bugs can do that, right? Emily glanced back. At least the slide's too knotted for it to get further inside. Not for long, Tab wailed. That dumb bug is going to rip it apart. Somehow I gathered up enough courage to peer out of our hiding place again, but instantly I wished I hadn't. It's worse than that, I said. There's more of them. Tab screamed. Emily cuffed her hand against her mouth. Shh, stop that! She looked at me with wild eyes. How many more? I jumped back as another antenna wormed its way inside. The bug above our heads screamed again. The slide shook dangerously. A lot, I answered. Emily groaned. I knew we should have called the cops. Then a whole new high-pitched screech echoed all around us so loud I had to cover my ears. What was that? Tab squeaked as it died away. I looked up. Cockroaches crawled all over the slide now. Their skittering, tiny, shiny bodies blocked out the orange light between coils. Emily swallowed hard. I think it was screech, thunk. The slide? We squatted down in the tiny space until we were almost sitting on top of each other. It's getting closer, I asked. Or is it getting closer? I asked. I think the coils are opening up more, because the cockroaches are pushing the slide down, Emily said. They're going to make the whole thing collapse. On top of us? Tab wailed. I jumped as the cockroach jumped next to me and snapped my hand. Yeah, well, I'm thinking it's not really safe out there either, I said. Screech! Okay, Emily said. She took a deep breath. Let me look. I moved back to make room. I tried to smile reassuringly at Tab, but I probably looked more like a deranged clown than anything. It's going to be okay. I'm fine, I'm sure. She sniffed. I'm not scared. It's okay for you to be scared, I said. You're a girl. She glared at me, so I stuck my tongue out at her. That made me feel a little better. I can't tell if there's a clear place to run, Emily said. I looked up. I really don't think we should. Hey, anyone in there? A loud, crackly voice interrupted. We looked at each other in surprise. Emily got as close to the opening as she dared and cupped her hands around her mouth. Yes, 3 of us. We're trapped. Okay, the voice answered right away. I got you. Hang on. Oh, thank you, Tab yelled. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. There was a moment of silence then. Are you kids or teens? Both, Emily said. Why? The voice didn't answer. Why would anyone care about that? Tab asked. I don't know, Emily said, but if this guy rescues us, he can ask if I'm the Queen of England for all I care. Finally, the voice came back. Guess I can't let you get ate by roaches anyhow. I'm going to throw a red bomb. When it goes off, you run hard. Got it? A lump formed in my throat. But won't a bomb blow us up too? My sisters didn't answer. They looked as worried as I felt. Ready? The voice called. Emily grabbed our hands. Whoever this is, I bet he knows a lot more about this place than we do. We'll just have to trust him. For once, I hoped my sister was right. Ready, she yelled. I squeezed Emily's hand, shut my eyes tight, and braced for a bomb blast. Nothing happened. What you waiting for, you loonies? Run! The red bomb ain't gonna last. I opened one eye and then the other to see a haze of red smoke surrounding us. Squinting against it, I peered out of our hiding place. The roach was gone. I looked through the coils. They were all gone. But the loud, buggy screeches continued all around us in the mist. I can't see them, but I sure can hear them, I said. But where are they? Tab asked. I think it's time to run, Emily said. She tightened her grip on our hands. Follow my lead. Together we ran out from under the giant slide into a hazy sea of red. The terrible din, screeching cockroaches surrounded us. Giant bug-shaped shadows skittered everywhere in the fog. Emily pulled up a sudden stop, yanking us with her. I can't see well enough to run anywhere. I rubbed my eyes and peered through the haze. Why aren't the roaches attacking? I don't think the smoke's hurting them. I don't think they can actually see us, Tab said. I remember reading somewhere that the color red blinds them. Hey, over here, hurry! I turned towards the crackly voice. Across the building, through the wispy smoke and flailing bugs, I could just make out another shadow shape, like a lollipop? That's new, I said, pointing. Which means it's got to be our rescuer, Emily said. Come on. We ran towards the shadow as the smoke began to blow away behind us. A cockroach screeched nearby, much louder than the others. Crud, the voice called. It sees you. Hurry, don't look back. We sped up. Our handholds broke, and I was running across the cracked floor blind and alone. The smoke burned my lungs with every breath I took. My torn bottom lip felt like it was on fire. My legs and arms ached. More of the roaches screeched. Through the smoke next to me, I heard Tab wheeze. We'll never make it. I reached out, found her hand again, and grabbed it tight. As the smoke wafted away and we got closer to the shadow, it began to take on details. It wasn't a lollipop after all, but a giant copper ball on top of 2 springy metal legs that bent backwards. Great blasts of steam burst from the joints with each step it took. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I slowed to a stop and gaped at it in stupid wonder. Tab, still holding my hand, was yanked to a stop too. Emily darted by. Come on! But it's, what is that? I asked in awe. Giant bugs right on your butt, Emily yelled. I'll ask questions later. As if on cue, one of the monsters screeched from directly behind us. My heart leapt into my throat. Slowly, I turned around and froze. The cockroach was so close that I could see every disgusting detail of its enormous face. The giant black eyes like shiny painted blobs, the quivering hairy antenna, the sharp mandibles of its mouth salivating in anticipation of a tasty kid-chop feast. It huffed at us, blowing our hair back with a burst of foul-smelling cockroach breath. Tab screamed. With a mighty hiss, the bug flipped over enormous clear wings, flapping them into a buzzing hurricane that nearly blew me away. It jumped over us and cut off our only hope of escape. Chapter 4, Robot Boy.
Chapter, can we take a pause here? We are at 256.
Yep, I was actually wondering. Pause for a second.
Yes. Let me pull us back together here. All right. So we do have a few questions out there in the audience.
Okay.
And One of them is mine, which I'm just going to start with because I feel like it's an extremely important question. But do
Okay.
cockroaches actually salivate?
I do not know, but no cockroach.
I don't know either, but I was like, ew. I guess if the creature wasn't disgusting enough, that would make it more disgusting.
Yeah. There's some gross stuff going on in the first book, especially.
Okay, so let's
Cockroach.
see. I have to scroll back just a minute here. Trying to find where. With so many chaotic events happening in your story, do you plan them out before putting them into the kids' perspective, or do they immediately come out onto the page that way?
It depends on the event. Some things just happen as I'm writing, and my brain is just kind of building a movie in my head. And other things just, I have to plan them in order to make the other things that just happen go together, really, to make it all make sense.
And so that actually kind of leads into another question, a serious question that I had. The cockroach question wasn't very serious. I said, I wonder what some of the biggest challenges are that you face about writing for a teenaged or younger aged audience.
The biggest challenge is just knowing where to draw lines. Obviously, some of them are very obvious lines that you draw.
Right.
Actually, the most recent problem I've been having is that because all of the families are broken up in Nil and Knock and Numb, the kids don't have any sense of what a parent even is. And
right.
So a lot of kids' books, mom wants to take care of us, live with, that kind of thing. So you don't really have to explain that. But in these books, the kids are meeting their parents. Okay, how do they know they're their parents without saying things that are more adult about babies,
Right.
And so
right.
and a challenge, but my fiance actually helped me a lot with that one. But that's really the hardest thing. Mostly my mind, you can ask my kids, my mind is already very kind of whimsical and childlike anyway, so it helps.
Do you ever run things by your kids to get their, like, what do they think of this? Is it too adult sounding? Is it too boring? Or
times, especially when they were little. My youngest now is 14 and my oldest is 25. So I still sometimes run things by them. Just kind of, I actually did send a little part to them just yesterday saying, hey, is this too much exposition? And my second oldest, Emily, is always very beautifully honest with me. And she said, a little bit too much exposition, Mom. But I also have some friends who have kids who will read bits and pieces and tell me what they think as well, which helps.
So Erwina is one of our subscribers. I don't know what, if you just knew this, I'm going to be more weirded out than if you actually went and Uncle Googled it. But apparently cockroaches do salivate and can be conditioned by dogs. Thank you so much for that useful piece of information. We have learned something today.
That's awesome. I don't know how many pictures of cockroaches I looked at, how many facts of cockroaches I read up on to do this. The that I read are scenes that I wrote years ago. So I might have looked it up. I don't know, but I didn't remember that. So thank you. I do know thing which they can't see in red. It's actually true. So I remember that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I was like, okay, how are they going to escape from these cockroaches? Well, let's do some research. So
what a weird fact for that. Okay, here we have and actually I want to say as well, because I think this is because we are at 3:00, so this will be our last question, unless we get like a easy one answer while we're doing this. But now is the time, you guys, wherever you're watching from, put your name into the comments section now, so that I can put you onto the Wheel of Win for your entry for a copy of today's book. And then we'll go ahead and take this question, and while she's answering, then I will get your names to add to the wheel. So fiction for young people often addresses issues which are very important to them, such as bullying. Did you go into the story planning to address that topic, or does it address it in hindsight?
Absolutely. Bullying is a huge theme of all the books. The first book is the physical kind of fighting bullying between the kids and the teens. And there is a scene where some of the teens will do bully the kids, specifically Emily, their teen sister. And the second book actually hits on emotional bullying, which is not something that's often hit on, which is
Yes.
more of the kind of the stuff that girls will do to each other more than and so because the second book is from Glory's point of view, and she is going through her own kind of I guess heroine's journey on that one, and so yeah, it definitely it's not just something that I thought I was going to touch on. It's something that I have built the stories around because it's a very important topic for me and for a lot of kids too.
So I don't want to get too political with with this, but I am curious a little bit how do you address bullying? Because I know that when it comes to how to handle that, at least in the school setting, it can be really challenging for parents and teachers because of like no tolerance policies, right? So how do you deal with that in your books in a way that maybe gives actual possible solutions, or ways to truly address that, right? If at all, you might, yeah, I mean, you might not, like, your characters might not do that at all, or they might have funny solutions that aren't really real world solutions. I'm just curious, like, how do you approach that serious topic, right?
There are some funny solutions, obviously, but in the first book with Guts is especially one because he meets a real serious bully named Fist, who is in the video as well, and realizes some of the things that he has done because he wanted to be a hero. He wants, he punches Arthur Camps because Arthur's bullying. Well, it's not the best way to handle this kind of thing. And so he learns that, instead of his fist, he needs to use his brain. And so he ends up leading this group of kids called the Dark Crows, and kind of showing them, okay, we're going to protect the Sticks, the little kids. They're called Sticks. We're going to protect them not by fighting with the teens, but by defending. We're going to try and build up defenses. We're going to do anything we can not to be violent about this. But it takes him a lot of work and a lot of time and some character development to get to that point. And it's his whole kind of Guts' whole story in the first book. His whole character development is figuring out how to be the hero he wants to be without being a bully on accident or on purpose. So yeah, there's some solutions, but they're the ones that a lot of people don't want to hear because they're the ones that sometimes work and sometimes don't. And of course, it's not always perfect either. Things don't always, bullies don't always stop no matter what we do, unfortunately.
Yep, that's true. That is true. And that's one of the reasons I feel that it is such a difficult topic to address. But I'm glad that somebody is out there doing it, So I think that that's basically something everyone in life faces growing up. So, all right. So I think I've got all of the names from from our comment section onto the wheel. Let me pull up the wheel and we will draw live for our winner.
Okay.
All right, can you guys see it? You sure can. All right, here we go. That is our big long list, and spin, spin, spin. Bam! Illyria. Hey, that is so cool. Illyria actually is in your neck of the woods.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yes, Illyria is one of our Patreon patrons. So, congratulations, Illyria. I am sure she will love it too. She is the reedy type of person. So, that is very excellent. And congratulations, Illyria. Let me get this off our screen. Yay. And so, is there anything you'd like to say, Jessica, before we let you go this afternoon?
Just that, I think that individuality is very important, and that's also a huge theme in Guts and Glory, which is why the kids earn their names, and their names have to do with who they really are, which is my name is Scribbler, because I scribble the stories. And so, whatever your favorite thing is, whatever you like the most about yourself, whatever really brings you joy and happiness, that is your nil name. So
I love that. I love that so much. Well, it's kind of like your philosophy behind it is very similar to how I feel about people with their fair and festival and convention names, that I really like to call them, just whatever name it is that they've ascribed to themselves in those realms that kind of sticks with them. I always like to call people by those names because I'm like, that's what you chose for yourself, right? Like that's, your avatar of you. So
absolutely.
and it's always unique and original, right? Like, so I think that's cool.
Exactly.
Right on. Well, you guys, you can find Jessica's work in the low bar. There are links to her website, to her Amazon, and I think also not Instagram, but you had a Facebook, your Facebook page down there as well. Please go give her the follows and the loves. It is Friday. This weekend, we will actually be back with you on Sunday because we are tomorrow. We'll be with you tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. We're doing a live episode both days from Odd Mall Emporium of the Weird here in the Pacific Northwest, handmade home shopping. So we will be walking around the Odd Mall and interviewing the vendors there personally. There will be bonuses offered from those vendors for our viewers only. And I hope to see you guys then this Saturday and Sunday. And then, of course, we'll be back again with you after that next Wednesday for Fae News. And with that said, then remember to leave reviews if you guys purchase. They always help indie authors. And everybody have an awesome weekend. Hit like and subscribe. We love all of you guys. And yeah, there you go. You know how this works.
Hello, friends. This is Gunther Hammerhands. Thank you for checking out Fairy Princess Lolly's channel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Use your troll hammer to ring that little bell icon to get notifications when she posts future videos. And if you'd like to support these magical creations, fly over to our Patreon and join the fairy family.